how can people work there? You know, how can what's his name who owns it? How can he do that? I told you what the Post published, and as Jennifer Rubin writes, Carlson labels his critics a mob, and refuses to apologize or even disown the comments which Media Matters have put out there in Carlson's own voice, even calling Iraqis semi-literate primitive monkeys and calling women primitive. What the fuck is wrong with Rupert Murdoch? Now, all of this with this Tucker Carlson little geek bastard, this all comes in the wake of Fox News management issuing a slap on the wrist to this crazy woman who works there, this Jeanine Pirro. That's a good name, Pirro, as in pyromaniac, I guess. After her grotesque and un-American accusation regarding Representative Ilhan Omar. Pirro said, think about it, quote, think about it. Omar wears a hijab. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution? I wonder if Jeanine Pirro is Catholic. And the reason I wonder that, not that she's part of a blood cult, if she is, but remember when John Kennedy had to go in front of a bunch of fucked up Southern Baptist ministers down in Texas and promise that his allegiance would be to the United States and not to the Pope? Now, a Muslim producer who works at Fox on Brett Baer's news show gave Pirro some hell. As Rubin points out, though, Pirro still hasn't been admonished by the so-called straight news anchors who complained about Fox's ostracism from the Democratic primary debates. If you want to be on the debates, little boys, then get rid of these racist, homophobic, anti-Islamic, and yes, anti-Semitic bastards who populate your filthy sewer. Get rid of them. Nah, you never do that, right? Anyway, some good news. Advertisers, according to the Washington Post, according to Jennifer Rubin, advertisers have begun to flee from both Pirro's show and Carlson's show. But Fox News, they're keeping them on the air. Rubin writes, now that we've established that overt ugly racism and misogyny are not career enders at Fox News, and in fact are features of these shows, I think we can understand why the Democratic Party doesn't want this outfit moderating its debates. The Fox News organization is now inextricably tied to hateful, racist, hurtful speech, not to mention complete toadyism to Trump and utter lack of journalistic standards. So it doesn't get an invitation to join polite company. And she goes on. I just want to quote directly from what she wrote. The Republicans who defend Trump remain silent and, in fact, champion Fox News and don't bother to express regret for Representative Kevin McCarthy's anti-Semitic allusion. But they have the temerity to accuse others of being insufficiently vigilant regarding racism. So the Republicans who remain silent are morally corrupt to their core. Morally corrupt to their core. They prove the Democrats' point that one party, however imperfectly, the Democrats, polices its own and condemns hate. Another party, the Republicans, use it directly and indirectly to stir up its base, because its base are batshit crazy. It's easy to stir someone up who's batshit crazy, right, Fox Sewer? Without xenophobia, Trump idolatry, and Islamophobia, Fox hosts would have nothing to talk about. It's so true. Fox and its apologists tell us that critics of its hosts' racism and misogyny are part of a insincere outrage industry. Oh, that's a new one. The outrage industry. This is like Trump's excuse that merely being politically incorrect, that he's being merely politically incorrect when he expresses racism, xenophobic, misogynistic, and Islamophobic views. It's of a piece with right-wing defenders saying he's a great president and his tweets are just words. What did Ram Dass say? Words are birds. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs. Birds will peck your fucking eyes out. Words are birds. This is a version, Jennifer writes, of blaming the victim, accusing those hurt by hate speech of being aggressors themselves because they say stop, and turning hate mongers into victims, like these pissants who work at Fox. This grubby, disgusting Sean Hannity and this Jeanine Pirro and Tucker Carlson, and before him Bill O'Reilly and the now dead Roger Ailes. Oh, they're it's a nest of scum. It's unbelievable. But I guess Rupert Murdoch figures, hey, as long as I have the #1 cable network in America and it's making me $60, $70, $80 million a year, I'm just going to keep these people on. That's another part of capitalism. Somebody could come on that program and say, Jesus sucks dog penises. And as long as the advertisers didn't flee, they would be allowed to say, Jesus sucks dog penises every goddamn day. That's how disgusting they are. Far from being insincere, the reaction to Trump, Fox, and the rest of the right-wing propaganda machine is an expression of righteous indignation, a vital part of maintaining a just and decent society. We should be angered by hate mongers, by liars, by power abusers, and others who defile the American creed. All people are created equal, which is a fucking lie. The framers never meant that. Come on, Jennifer. Moral numbness and indifference brought us Trump in the first place. Then she writes, finally, I would observe that the Republican Party and its right-wing news machine's attempt to play down women's righteous anger, as seen in the hashtag #MeToo movement and protests over Brett Kavanaugh, was a substantial factor in women's march out of the GOP, which in turn helped shift the suburbs to Democrats and deliver a historic thrashing to Republicans in the midterms. You see, the more the Fox-Trump industrial hate complex spews venom and denigrates its critics, the higher the level of righteous indignation rises among all those who feel themselves the sting of bigotry, or are able to empathize with those who do. In this climate, anti-Trump voters don't lose their determination to throw the haters out. It's the fuel for the Democratic resistance and the poison that is killing the Republican Party. It almost makes leaving Jeanine Pirro and Tucker Carlson on the air worth it. Yeah. So then the Washington Post is reporting a number of advertisers are distancing themselves from Fox News Channel shows featuring Carlson and Pirro after these two nutcases were accused of making the bigoted statements. Both have pushed back against the criticism, but multiple companies have reportedly pulled their support this week. Targeting advertisers with boycott campaigns is a frequent tactic of the critics of this sewer, and it works. Beginning Sunday, Media Matters for America started releasing those clips of Carlson making the homophobic and racist and anti-woman and anti-Semitic statements on Bubba the Love Sponge Show. It was a Tampa-based radio show. Yeah, that figures. In one set of recordings, Tucker Carlson made controversial statements about child rape and comments that were misogynistic. Here's what he's heard saying this on one recording, quote, "If you're talking to a feminist and she's giving you, well, you know, men really need to be more sensitive." No, actually, men don't need to be more sensitive. You just need to be quiet and do what you're told, end quote. He's addressing that to women. In another segment, Carlson is heard calling Iraq a crappy place filled with a bunch of, you know, semi-literate primitive monkeys, and jokingly using a homophobic slur. Yeah. After these recordings were published by Media Matters, some companies decided to pull their advertising. Not enough, though. Debbie Jennings, a spokeswoman for Sheiks, you've seen the commercials, that betting company, told the Washington Post yesterday that, quote, due to the inappropriate statements of Tucker Carlson that have recently come to light, Sheiks has made the decision to cease advertising on his program, Tucker Carlson Tonight. AstraZeneca tweeted Monday that it had ceased advertising on Carlson's show and would not resume in the future. And in a statement to the Washington Post this week, this little rat bastard Tucker Carlson was just absolutely defiant. Because he's a white male on Fox. He can do any fucking thing he wants to do. So he thinks. He said this, quote, "Media Matters taught me saying something naughty on a radio show more than a decade ago, caught me. Rather than address the usual ritual contrition," I've already said this, "if you know what I think, you can watch my program," blah, blah, blah. Fox News Channel spokeswoman Carly Shanahan, what have you had to give up, Carly, to work there? She responded to a request for comment by resending a December statement on boycott efforts against Tucker's program. The December statement said this, quote, "We cannot and will not allow voices like Tucker Carlson be censored by agenda-driven intimidation efforts from the likes of MoveOn.org, Media Matters, and Sleeping Giants," end quote. Agenda-driven intimidation efforts. When you say to somebody, why are you using rotten language to denigrate people? That's agenda-driven. You rotten sons of bitches. I'll tell you what, Carly Shanahan, you've really sold your soul to Satan, haven't you? You really have. You really, Carly Shannon, have sold your soul to Satan, haven't you? Working in that shithole of a place? What kind of comments are made about you? You think Tucker Carlson respects you? I don't know. Novo Nordisk, another pharmaceutical company, told the Washington Post it was, quote, re-evaluating, end quote, its ads on Pirro's show. A spokesman for Novo Nordisk, Ken Inchausti, confirmed that Novo Nordisk will continue to advertise elsewhere on Fox. A spokesman for Let Go, a website for buying and selling used goods, told The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "We absolutely condemn Ms. Pirro's comments, which are offensive and completely contrary to our values. We are in the process of ensuring our ads will no longer run during her show." Well, get the fuck off Fox. Why do you advertise on Fox? NerdWallet told The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "We're no longer advertising on this show and don't have plans to in the future." Think Progress reported the Botox manufacturer Allergan and Great Call, a health technology company, would not advertise their products on Pirro's show going forward. Jesus. I just, anytime I talk about the scum on Fox, I feel dirty inside. You know what I mean? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.